All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Nisha Padak, and I am the Program Director for the Aero and IBM partnerships at Indiegogo. I'm really excited to be joined today by my colleague on the engineering team at Aero, Tom Shar, and the CEO of PlayDate, Kevin Lee. They can't wait to talk to you about how PlayDate conquered the manufacturing process. So I'll begin quickly with an intro to Indiegogo for those who are new to our platform, as well as our partnership with Aero Electronics. I will then let Tom and Kevin take it away with a deep dive into PlayDate's manufacturing process and open it up for Q&A. So with that, let's talk about Indiegogo. So originally, we launched as a crowdfunding platform. Today, Indiegogo is a place for entrepreneurs to move their ideas quickly from concept to market. Our mission is to empower people to unite around ideas that matter to them, and together make those ideas come to life. Entrepreneurs on Indiegogo are able to showcase their ideas directly to users, take orders for products early in their life cycle, and ultimately build direct relationships with their first customers. As part of our mission, we support entrepreneurs through every stage of product development. This is helped by a growing set of innovative partnerships. Aero Electronics is our largest partner to date. Through our joint partnership and certification program, which began last year, Indiegogo and Aero are helping entrepreneurs get production ready. I'll let Tom tell you a little more about Aero and the program.
Yeah, thank you, Nisha, and hello, everybody. Thank you for being part of the webinar. For those who are not familiar with Aero Electronics, Aero supports companies of all sizes, from startups and entrepreneurs like Kevin and his really cool idea of PlayDate, all the way to multinational corporations. Our goal is to help companies build their ideas and take their designs all the way through to manufacturing. Aero is a Fortune 120 company with almost 20,000 employees worldwide. We run one of the world's largest supply chains and to support over 120,000 customers globally. Through the Aero certification program on Indiegogo, our teams of expert engineers every day are working with entrepreneurs such as Kevin, take their ideas to market and to production. The Aero certification program launched just over 6 months ago with Indiegogo, and we have welcomed over 2,000 entrepreneurs on the Indiegogo platform. Our engineers have provided these entrepreneurs with expertise and technical advice to help them further develop their idea all the way through working proof of concepts and onto production. Very excited to help even many more, and we welcome them onto the platform. And with that, I would like to pass it on to Kevin to give you an overview of his company and very cool product, PlayDate. Kevin?
All right, so Kevin, tell us about how PlayDate conquered the manufacturing process. But first, tell us a little bit more about PlayDate itself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just a little bit of background. At PlayDate, we're building out technology to improve the lives of pets and their owners. And so the first product we've created is a camera-enabled ball that pet owners can use to interact with their dogs or cats from anywhere. The ball itself provides a live HD video feed, which you can control remotely using your mobile app. And so ultimately, you can allow pet owners to interact with their pets in real time from any location.
Very cool. What were some of the challenges that you guys faced while manufacturing?
Yeah, so fundamentally, the issue with manufacturing is it's a big ship with a lot of parties involved. And so any kind of a small change along the way can have massive repercussions. This is definitely something that we had heard about, going into the process, and we knew that there were pitfalls ahead. But I don't think we fully appreciated it until we actually started going down the process. And so, two big issues that we've faced so far have been long lead time for components, sort of the time between when you place an order and when you actually get the pieces. And when you do get the pieces, sometimes they don't always match up to the specs in the spec sheet.
Yes, I'm sure those are definitely two big issues that a lot of entrepreneurs face. How did you guys overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so for the first one, in terms of long component lead times, just knowing that it's an issue that you need to be aware of is half the battle. And so for us, really the workaround is either swapping out really, really long lead time components with shorter ones, or really just pre-ordering the pieces. I think what a lot of people don't necessarily realize is, you can go online and buy one or two pieces, have those overnight to you, but when you're talking about a reel of 5,000 chips, that's not quite as easy to get. And then the other issue is really around components not matching up to specs. I would say this is also something we didn't really anticipate, which is part of the reason it was a problem. And if I were to do it again, my advice to campaigners would be get your hands on modules if possible, rather than just relying on the spec sheet for the particular component you're using.
Awesome. How has your experience been working with Aero Engineer?
Aero has been super helpful for us. One of the great things about working with a company of their size, I think Tom spoke to this a little bit, is they have experts in pretty much all aspects of design and the manufacturing process. And so if you have a problem, either they have somebody that's a domain expert or they know somebody that they can connect you with.
That's great. Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience working with entrepreneurs like Kevin?
It's been absolutely fantastic. You can tell the passion in Kevin's voice, the creativity these entrepreneurs they bring in. They all have great ideas, unique ideas, some innovation, and they're going to take it to market. And there's nothing more refreshing for us, Aero, to help them take their ideas to production and help them become a company and a startup. It's just been great, and it fuels our passion of creating more business and more opportunities for them.
Great. That's awesome to hear, Tom. Before we continue to hear from Kevin, I do want to pause and tell you all about a pretty cool benefit of our program with Aero. So this year, Aero has committed to actually give away $1 million in flash funding to qualified entrepreneurs in our certification program. In March, Aero awarded $75,000 to WaterBot, a startup whose product is bringing water quality regulation to a national level. Aero and Indiegogo are planning to announce another lucky winner this month who will receive another $75,000 in flash funding. And Kevin's company, PlayDate, was actually one of our first flash funding winners back in October. So, Kevin, what was your experience winning flash funding, and what did you guys do with the funds?
Yeah, so the experience has been fantastic, both with flash funding as well as the certification program. It's definitely allowed us to connect with a lot of in-house expertise at Aero, which has just been great. And it's also been a great badge of credibility that's opened doors for us. That includes talking to investors, talking to potential business partners for distribution, things like that. In terms of the funds and the expenses, we use that mostly for what are called non-recoverable expenses in manufacturing, which means one-time expenses that you typically incur up front for either design or molding, things like that.
Very cool. Do you have any tips to share with fellow hardware entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I would say, spend a lot of time getting the details of your design down. Double check every step of the way. The later in the process you make changes to your design, the harder and harder it comes to get. That's really where expertise with working with someone like Aero can come into play. Because at the end of the day, with software, it's a lot easier to iterate as you go. But with manufacturing, with hardware, you more or less have to have your design set in stone pretty early on.
That's great. And then on the crowdfunding side, what would you say is a good way to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign?
So I would say there are three really key things to do. The first one is talk to people. Talk to your potential customers and make sure you're actually solving a real problem that people have rather than just a nice to have. Believe it or not, that's actually how we came across PlayDate. So when we were talking to customers, we actually started with a slightly different pet tech idea. And it was only through iterative development, talking to folks about their needs, that we came across PlayDate, which ultimately I think was a better product. The second is identify your customers. Who are 2 or 3 types of key people that you think would really, really love what you're building? And then finally, in terms of raising a successful crowdfunding campaign, it's always great to talk to folks who have run successful campaigns themselves. We didn't have this opportunity when we first went live with our campaign, but the Arrow certification program and the partnership, I would say with that in place, definitely try to take advantage of that. Reach out to Arrow, get feedback on your design, sort of get a sanity check on your components, your bill of materials, because at the end of the day, there's really more than one way to run a successful crowdfunding campaign, and so you just want to talk to as many people as possible.
Awesome. So at this point, thank you so much, Kevin and Tom, for your insights. We want to give everyone on the line a chance to ask their questions that they may have for Kevin or Tom. So please use the chat tool to submit any questions that you have. Some of you have already submitted some, so we'll start walking through those right now. So the first one is for Kevin. Did you get your parts overseas?
There's two aspects to that question. One is, what you mean by parts. So in terms of the prototyping pieces, where we just made a functional prototype, we did that mostly by procuring pieces in the U.S. because obviously it's faster for us to get. And then for low volume production, which we're also doing in the U.S., I would say around 95% of those components were sourced from the U.S. And then for mass production, our manufacturer is doing a lot of the supply chain, but my guess is a lot of those components actually come from overseas.
Great. One more for you, Kevin. How were you introduced originally to Arrow? Was it Indiegogo that made the introduction?
Yeah, so our case is a bit unique because after we ran the campaign, only then did Arrow certification actually come out. And so I believe in our case, I may have received an email just from Indiegogo saying, hey, campaigner, we've got this certification program, you should check it out. And we looked into it, it sounded intriguing. I really wish it existed when we went live with the campaign, but ultimately we ended up applying for it after we ran the campaign.
That's great. We have a question that says, how much flash funding did PlayDate win? So PlayDate won $100,000 in flash funding last October. That's exciting. Another one, what type of marketing did you do for your crowdfunding campaign in order to raise so much money? This one's for Kevin.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback I got from talking to folks is the importance of marketing if you're trying to raise, a substantial amount on crowdfunding. So if you're committed to doing the project regardless, as we were, for us it was a path we were going down regardless, then I think it's important to commit some money to marketing. But ultimately, I think the bigger question is really, what's the point of doing the marketing? And for us, it was really more about experimentation and customer discovery. Who are the types of people that PlayDate really resonates with? How do we actually find them so that we can get their feedback? And I think if you think about marketing that way, rather than just acquiring customers, it'll really be a more productive relationship.
That's great. Let's keep on this trend a little bit. So piggybacking on how long your manufacturing process took, so that's one question we have for you, Kevin, but also how long did it take to get to an end product as compared to the original estimated time?
Yeah, so there's a few different aspects to that. So the first question really has to do with how long the manufacturing process takes end to end. In our case, I would say a little over a year, and that includes, all the way from ideation to when we'll have a finished product, a year to a year and a half. And I've heard from other folks that I've talked to, sort of in the hardware space, that that's relatively fast. So, if you are going down and obviously this varies depending on the complexity of your product. I would say ours is, it's not as complex as a motherboard, but it's fairly complex. And I think the second part of that question had to do with, product delivery completion. And earlier in this webinar, you may recall I talked about some of the hiccups that we faced. And a lot of those had to do with one of the components that we had integrated into our design had run it all the way through the early stages of mass production, only to realize that it just wasn't possible for us to get the appropriate range out of it. So this is actually a wireless charging chip. And what that means is, we sunk a lot of time into it. We sunk a good amount of resources and our time into it, and it really set us back. And so I would say if you can at all avoid those kind of hiccups, definitely try to get your hands on some modules before you start.
Great. We have another question around prototyping. So did Aero help you with your prototype? What if you have a product idea but you're not an engineer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I could speak a little bit to my experience, and then maybe I can kick that second part of that question off to Tom. In our case, we are engineers at PlayDate, sort of with engineering background, specifically in prototyping, actually. And so for us, iterating through the design process was relatively quick because we built all the prototypes ourselves. And again, I mentioned that the certification program didn't come along until after we had already gone live with our campaign. And so by the time we had met Aero, we actually had a custom design in hand. Obviously I would recommend you do way more prototyping. There's a lot of great prototyping toolkits out there. I would say every day the bar is becoming lower and lower for folks to throw something together just to test out an idea. But Tom, maybe you can speak a little bit to Aero's involvement with prototyping, if any. I just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Just so everybody know, we're here to help people throughout their, the life of their product. As Kevin said, we engage with Kevin into the second half of his product, but today we're working with entrepreneurs from ideation through prototyping through production. So there's really two things. We can give you access to design tools free of charge. If you're a capable engineer like Kevin and his fellow colleagues. If you want design services, we have pre-qualified partners. These are trusted partners that we know them really well. We can introduce you to those partners so you can negotiate a design package. In many cases, we have pre-negotiated some design packages, but it's really up to you, the entrepreneur, to see if you want to do it yourself or you want to outsource the design and the prototyping services, and we have partners that are very capable of doing that for you.
Thanks, Tom. Here's another question for you. Aero is known as a distributor for electronic components. Do we get a discount if we work with them, and what's the process?
Yeah, absolutely. We give all the entrepreneurs, when you engage with Indiegogo, 10% off and free shipping. Also, when you get certified, we'll give you $1,000 free parts. And I want to be clear here for everybody. You owe nothing back to Aero Electronics. We don't take, as you can ask Kevin, we have no access to the IP. It's all your IP. It's your idea. It's purely a partnership for Indiegogo where we can give you some discounts and some help on products. But it's your idea. It's your IP. You own it 100%. Our goal is to help you take your idea to production. And if you like us, hopefully you buy products from us. There's no obligations to buy anything from Aero. We just want to help as many of Indiegogo entrepreneurs take their ideas to productions and create more companies, and we would like them to be one of our customers, but it's not mandatory per se. It's a relationship company and a supply chain partner, Aero Electronics, just like with any company we do business with today.
Great. We have a quick follow-up from your prior answer. What is the design tool that's available?
So today on Aero.com, we give everybody access to Cadence OrCAD design tool, a full-up tool, and you can do your design, you can do your schematics, and things like that, and it's all protected. You don't have to publish it, and very soon we will be introducing a mechanical design tool. But today, you can go on Aero.com and get access to Cadence OrCAD free of charge.
Awesome. And a couple questions on flash funding that maybe you, Tom, can handle. So how often is flash funding given away? And is it always given to a campaign that is live or closed?
So the only stipulation for the campaign is you have to be a certified campaign to be eligible for flash funding. And what we have committed to, which means you have to be live and certified on Indiegogo, that is the only stipulation for you. Otherwise, you're eligible, you're into the running. We have committed to $1 million in 2017. We announced the first winner and we're announcing winners as we go along with different amounts. So it's not a set time zone or a set amount for every announcement we make.
And to build off of that a little bit, you can be a live traditional campaign on Indiegogo or have an in-demand campaign. So I just wanted to clarify that as well. A question for Kevin, marketing-wise, what helped you get the most backers?
That's a good question. So I'll answer that with maybe just a more broad stroke, because at the end of the day, I do know that there are a number of ways to run successful campaigns. And so in our case, because we were more focused on running the company sort of like a startup, very often what's very effective for startups is Facebook ads. They're pretty good for targeting different demographics if you know what you want. And so for us, that was quite successful. In terms of other things that I know work very well for other campaigners is essentially social media. If you basically build up either your own following or you go through word of mouth, friends of friends, use your social network, you can really get the word out that way as well. And then this isn't really not really marketing, but I think working with press is also important. Finding folks who think your story is interesting and allowing them to tell it, I think also is great for getting the word out.
That's great. Tom, another question for you. What projects are eligible for the benefits? And this might be a good time to also talk about incubation versus certification.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have benefits for all projects at all levels. It's just the certification is the clear one. You have to have like I said earlier, you have to have a certified, you have an electronic component, and you have to have a live campaign. Otherwise, we have benefits for everybody. We bring in partnerships like IBM and others to bring in cloud services or design services and things like that. So it depends where your idea is, and we actually work with campaigners. I've seen other questions. We work with many campaigners in pre-launch mode to help them get ready. To Kevin's point, the world of hardware is not simple. It takes a fair amount of work. Our engineers will help you through your idea, your proof of concept, before you launch your product, so we can get you as ready as possible, and it will help you increase the amount of funding you raise on Indiegogo. So we work at all stages, and we have all kinds of benefits. Depends on the stage your campaign is in.
That's great. One more question for you, Tom. I haven't launched a campaign yet. Can I have Arrow look into my project still?
Absolutely. We actually prefer to work with you before you launch your campaign to get you as ready as possible so you can have a very successful campaign. And as Kevin said, when we launched the program, PlayDate was already into the second half and already doing the prototypes. So we work with everybody. We can work with you on ideation, on your early hardware debugging, on your prototype stage. There's many things we can help you before you launch, and we encourage you to engage with Indiegogo and your electronics as early as possible.
Great. We have a question about manufacturing for you, Tom. So I'd love to find out more about how to find the right manufacturer. Do you have any advice?
Absolutely. We have a lot of companies we do business with. Arrow doesn't own manufacturing services ourselves, but we have partners that we know really well, we trust, and we make sure they get genuine products from Arrow Electronics. So this way, as Kevin mentioned earlier, you don't get counterfeit products or something that doesn't meet the specs. So we have these companies, and we can introduce you to them, so you know who we're dealing with, you know who you can trust, and hopefully we'll get you on the track of success much faster, and you'll learn some lessons the hard way by trying to navigate the world of manufacturing across continents and running supply chains. It could be a challenge, and that's the goal of the Spirit and the goal of our relationship with Indiegogo, is to help entrepreneurs and idea creators to go to production, very expedited, but also very clear path to success.
Great. And does Arrow supply PCBAs?
We do provide PCBA services. We don't have our own manufacturing, as I said earlier. We have partners that can do that for you to your spec, working with our engineers.
Great. How do we get in contact with Arrow before we launch our campaign? So this one I can take. We have on this final slide a link to our landing page where you can fill out a little information about your project, and within a week or two, you'll hear from an Aero engineer who will have that broader discussion with you. So like we said, that landing page is not just for people who have an existing campaign or have even drafted a campaign. You can be as early as not even thought about your campaign yet and still visit that page and sign up for the program and start talking to an Aero engineer. A question for me, does Indiegogo have any plans to forge new relationships like the one with Aero for other organizations for non-hardware categories? Yes, so we actually very recently, a couple months ago, announced a partnership with IBM. Aero also has an existing relationship with IBM. So IBM has joined our Aero Indiegogo partnership as a third party. Their involvement is actually critical because they're handling all things software. So it's the IBM Watson IoT team that has been most involved for all campaigners or entrepreneurs who have opted into the program. You also get access now, free and unlimited access to the IBM Watson IoT platform, which will be critical for folks who are building products like IoT products, but also software-only products like web and mobile apps and others. So the IBM partnership is just another that we've launched, but our hope is that we will have partnerships that are tackling all aspects of the product life cycle. Obviously, our focus so far has been a lot on engineering, manufacturing, production, but we are looking to forge partnerships in other spaces as well. Are you guys going to be at Maker Faire? So I don't know, Tom, would you like to answer that from the Aero side?
I don't plan on being at Maker Faire. We usually have some people working the floor. Our activity with Indiegogo focus on CES and some other events. As you know, there's many Maker Fairs across the United States, Europe, and Asia. It's hard to support all of the Maker Faire activities.
Yeah, same answer from the Indiegogo side. We will definitely have people on the floor. We won't have an official space, but you'll definitely be able to find some Indiegogoers at Maker Faire.
Yeah, Nisha, one thing to add is really the best way to engage is to apply online through the link there Nisha has shown and engage with us, and then we can work on meeting if needed at a Maker Faire or some other events or arrange other meetings. Best way is really get online and let's engage.
Yeah, and I know it can be scary to just fill out some online form and not know who it's going to, but we are very quick about responding. You'll hear from Aero very quickly, and absolutely, Tom's right. The best way is to go to that landing page and sign up. We have a couple more questions about flash funding. So just to reiterate, flash funding is available to certified entrepreneurs in the program. So the best way to get flash funding is also to sign up for the program, work with the Aero team to get certified, and once you're in that certified bucket, you're automatically entered into the flash funding pool. So you will automatically be considered for every round of flash funding that we do this year once you hit that certification phase and you have your Indiegogo campaign launched. We have a question on the Indiegogo side. Will Indiegogo promote my campaign more if I work with Aero? So we do have a couple ways of doing that. We have collections of campaigns on our site, and we do have an Aero certified collection. So that's one way. In our backer newsletter, which goes out daily, but we have a hardware-focused newsletter that goes out every Thursday. We have a section for Aero certified campaigns. So within that email, there's basically a call out to 2 or 3 campaigns each week in that hardware email that goes out to backers. So we are driving backers specifically to Aero certified campaigns. We also have campaign strategists on hand to work with you to actually build the strongest campaign you can build and launch strong. So you actually have dedicated folks at Indiegogo who are happy to work with you on your overall campaign strategy. All right. I think we have gone through most questions. With that, thank you all for attending the webinar and learning more about how Kevin's company, PlayDate, leveraged the Aero certification program to conquer the manufacturing process. Some of you on the line have actually already chosen to join the program. To start receiving your benefits, do refer to the follow-up email from Indiegogo with next steps. And if you've not joined and are interested, do visit our landing page, enterprise.indiegogo.com/aero, to learn more and to apply. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.